One of the areas that, at least in my world, which feels more and more bubbly the longer I talk to you, is that AI has seemed to permeate into many things.
The best way to think about biology is like alien technology, freakishly powerful alien technology. It can do these incredible things that I have no idea how to self-assemble this Diet Coke can. Okay, right? Like I got to build a big manufacturing plant. I don't know how to grow anything, but biology's already doing it. Okay, so it's advanced alien technology. I can install new code so I can make it do new things. But because I didn't design it, I am terrible at writing that code. It's not my invention. And to give you an analogy from tech world, imagine like an asteroid landed and inside of it was a processor, computer processor, and it ran at 10 million times the efficiency of current NVIDIA chips. And it would take code. You could just feed zeros and ones in and it would do shit. But you had no idea of the architecture, your ability to interrogate it was pretty crap. What would you spend your time on? Would you start messing with that thing and trying to figure out how to make it do new stuff? I mean, you know it's so powerful, but you're going to have to struggle through this misery of reverse engineering how it works. That's the state of play for biology today. So the first thing we worked on at Ginkgo was, boy, you would be able to program that crazy alien computer a lot faster if you could quickly compile code into it and get debugging results out. So you had some sense of like what the hell it did by just giving it code and getting readouts of the code. Again, we live in the physical world in biology, not bits. So every time you compile code, remember that Jurassic Flower project, you got to print a piece of DNA. It's chemical synthesis. Okay, so you actually have to do work in the lab to compile code. It's fucking expensive. Okay, and you pay by the bit. So what we want to do is drop that cost. Okay, so that's what all the automation does. So now we can compile and debug cheaper than anywhere else. All right, so now we're able to try a lot of code. That's half the challenge. Get it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper so you can collect more data per dollar. Then the next question is, do you understand anything of what's coming out? So I've just put new code into the cell. It didn't do the thing I wanted it to do. Big surprise, just like your first version of your software probably is buggy. And I want to debug it. And I got a bunch of big debug readout, right? I got like a core dump on this fucking cell. Do I understand what the hell's going on? This is where like AI models can really be extremely beneficial in biology. They have a very close analogy to written language effectively. How do I work on this problem if I'm in a modern large neural net world? Well, I start by training a foundation model on a bunch of DNA code out in nature. It's very analogous to the 10 terabytes of internet data that got pulled down to train GPT-4 or whatever, right? Like unsupervised learning on lots of English text. I'm going to do unsupervised learning on lots of DNA code. Think of a gene. It's read end to end letters, okay? And you can do that same kind of like leave out and prediction stuff that you do for neural nets with English language. You could leave out parts of genes and ask the neural net to predict them. And so you can train up in an unsupervised way on lots of genomes, a foundation model that speaks DNA. And if you're familiar with have you ever heard of AlphaFold, which was like a Google project 3 or 4 years ago? That's effectively what they did on the public DNA data set called GenBank. And then they went and turned around and they used it to predict the folding of proteins. Like proteins make little shapes, these little nano machines. And it turned out they were able to do it better than any human protein engineers armed with their more traditional computational design tools. So they won this contest over human protein designers to predict the shape of a protein. My opinion, this is not surprising at all. So we have a whole stack of technology, law, invented by humans. And we're asking the computer neural net to compete with our wet neural net in this domain that's our domain. Now let's compare that to the alien technology of biology written in DNA code. Let me tell you, if I show you a bunch of DNA letters on the screen, you can't read them. You don't know what the DNA does. But guess what? Neither do the scientists at Ginkgo. We can't read it. It's not our language, right? It's like me asking you to write a poem in Chinese, okay, right? So we suck at that. We've built the best tools we can. I think we're better than anybody else at doing it. But in general, humans are not native speakers of DNA. These models, which again, I'll emphasize, the neural net was in no way designed to speak English. It's just a bunch of fucking nodes and lines. It was able to see enough raw English language to learn English. If we give enough raw DNA language to these neural nets, they'll learn to speak DNA, except they should get way better than us because we're not any good at it. And so the superhuman capabilities in bioengineering, I think, are really going to get unlocked with AI. And we just did a $200 million plus deal with Google Cloud to basically build out these exact kind of foundation models. They're investing, we're getting milestones from them. We're paying them a bunch. We're building this infrastructure on the back of our ability to generate low cost data in our facilities, and also the fact that we have like a huge amount of genomes that we can use to train this thing that aren't in the public data set. I'm optimistic that this technology is going to be hugely important because we didn't invent biology. Like, we actually need a neural net to come in and understand this stuff in a way we actually don't for law. Like, we kind of want the neural nets just to save us some money. It's not like they're able to do law and we can't. They're going to be able to design biology and we can't. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. Super interesting.
It's the coolest shit. I mean, I've been in this field since the inception, 2002. And I would say, like, other than like the very beginning, some of the like low level stuff we figured out in SynBio and like abstracting things to the robotics, this is going to be the next most important technology. It's so cool.
Super interesting.
And I actually think, by the way, because of that, the application of AI in bio might end up being more important than in language.
Totally.
Unless language somehow turns into what Sam and everybody hopes it will, which is like some actual pathway to like general intelligence, in which case, yeah, sure, all bets are off if you get down that road. If language is really just about language and writing, humans are pretty good at that. It's going to be nice. It'll be good for search. It'll be good for office productivity. But like, it's not going to give us some crazy new capability. It's just going to make us more efficient. Whereas like on the bio side, this might be what lets us design biology, in which case we unlock the entire living world as a platform for manufacturing and everything else. You fucking kidding me? Which would be a bigger impact of AI.